Welcome to our third birth story interview. I'm Shakina Lee from Honouring the Feminine, and I've been running my own business on the Gold Coast supporting women and girls through their transformational and rites of passage experiences. And the birthing journey is one of those experiences. So today I'm joined by Jeni Drew, and Jeni is from All Things Natural Living. Yeah. And she's a natural sleep consultant, a wellness educator, a Feldenkrais practitioner, yes, and a home birth support group facilitator. You wear almost as many hats as I do.
Right.
Yep. So welcome, Jeni.
Thank you.
Today I'd like to begin by asking you about the home birth group that you're a part of, that you facilitate. Can you tell us a little about it? When did it start?
Sure. That's something I'm very passionate about.
Yeah.
And this particular group on the Gold Coast was established over 30 years ago, which is just amazing.
It is amazing. That's incredible.
Yeah. So I often say that we stand upon the shoulders of the women who've gone before us, because I so strongly feel that in this group.
Yeah.
And I've been involved for about 17 years, which is when I stumbled upon the group via a tiny little advertisement in a local paper.
Yeah, right. I love it.
Yeah. So I feel very passionate, having had 3 home births myself. Yeah. Largely, I feel so much gratitude to that group that really held the space for me to explore my own journey. Yeah. And so out of that sense of gratitude, I think I really want to keep that space alive for people. So we meet monthly in Nerang here on the Gold Coast.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
And how long ago did you start facilitating the program or the group?
Yeah, probably about 8 years full time, but I was, I guess, undergoing a mentorship prior to that, just really watching the women and
I feel like that's where I first met you, at that home birth group.
Really?
Yeah, because I didn't, right. That just hopped into my brain right then as we're talking about it.
Amazing.
We've known each other for a long time, and I can't believe that's just coming up now.
Amazing. At Bronwyn's house.
Yes.
Amazing. Yeah.
Right when the transition was happening, I think.
Yeah.
All right, good. So
back to business.
Back to business. Could you share a little bit about your favourite part of one of your birthing experiences? I know you've had 3 children and they've all been home births, but is there a favourite part that stands out for you?
There is, and I'll share mine, and then I'll, because I asked Rod, my partner, last night.
Oh, beautiful.
I have to share about my birth stories.
Partners.
And I said, they come into it.
They do.
And I said, I'm thinking I'll share, part of the breech birth, because that's fairly unique to have a breech home birth.
Absolutely.
And that was my first birth. But for him, it was our second birth.
Yeah.
And that was an accidental free birth because the midwife didn't arrive in time.
Yeah, right.
Well, she arrived at the perfect time, but the baby was already there. So,
babies, they're on their own timeline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we are. So for him, that was really significant because that was just he and I birthing our baby.
Yeah, and he would have had to be really hands-on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh.
Yeah.
Lucky that was the second one and not the first one.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think for us that was perfect because by the second one I'd already had that continuity of care 2 times and felt like I knew how to stay in my birthing zone and do what I needed to do.
Obviously.
Yeah.
And so your favourite was the breech birth just because it was unique, or was there something about that?
It's not the favourite.
Okay. It's the most memorable.
Well, not even that.
Oh, what is it then?
There's something significant, and that was the support of the 2 midwives who were present for that birth.
Yeah.
And there was a pivotal moment, I think, where one of the midwives was just watching me. I think I was already in that phase of the baby coming.
Did you know it was breech?
We did by then.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, that's another whole story.
Okay, let's not go there. Yes, continue, sorry.
But it's a great story.
I'm sure it is.
But yes, the baby was starting to come down, and because being a first-time mum, you don't really know what to do and where to push, if I use that term. And Leanne, my beautiful midwife, put a finger on my perineum and just really, and the other midwife, Claire, she had her fingers on my sacrum And that clarity for me of actually having somebody really identify the bones and the perineum brought me focus.
Yeah, right.
And
I can feel it. I'm
amazing.
getting goosebumps.
Are you?
Yeah.
It was amazing. And
Yeah.
for me, who is a body worker as well,
yes,
that type of quality of touch in the moment I needed that just okay, I'm back.
Sometimes it's just the smallest thing that can get us there, isn't it?
Yeah.
I love it. Oh, yeah. Look.
I know, me too.
So I was asking about the favourite one, and then I wanted to ask about the most memorable part of any of your birthing journeys. Is that different to that you just shared with us? One of your most memorable moments in any of those birthing experiences?
I think that would probably be the most memorable.
It feels very...
Yeah.
All right, beautiful. So was there any part of your birthing journeys, either three of them, that felt traumatic or difficult in any way? Even if it's like afterwards with postnatal depression or breastfeeding issues, through that whole birthing journey, not just the labour.
Yeah, I was thinking about this in the car on the way here because I thought this might be a question. And possibly it's what I did with my mind afterwards. Well, breastfeeding the first time was a little challenging, so that was something. But it was the fact that I had a tiny graze with the first baby, not even a tear.
Yeah, okay.
So a perineal graze.
Right.
And that I blew up in my mind that meant a failed birth.
Wow.
Yeah. So I feel like that's significant to talk about
Absolutely.
because I'm sure I'm not alone in doing that to myself.
And that's it, we can feel so silly sometimes with the things that we think we're blowing out of proportion, especially when we compare our birthing experiences or birthing journeys to other people's and think, oh, well, it was nothing like what she had to go through. But really, it's always relative, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like to what we were expecting and what we were hoping for, and how important our minds are.
Yes.
In how traumatic something can feel. And that's not saying that any woman who feels like they had a traumatic birth is blowing it all out of proportion at all. That is definitely not what I'm saying. But that the mind does play a big part. And I think also when we check in with other people and the stories, then, what they've experienced in that birthing story, so partners or other people who may have been present, sometimes what they tell us then can change what we think about it for the better or for the worse. So did it take you long to sort of get through feeling like you failed because you had the perineal graze?
I think it did.
Not that that's funny, but yeah,
it did. It really did take a while. It was almost like a little sticking point for me that I sort of hyper-focused on almost.
Okay. Do you do that often in life, or was it just because it was a birth?
I probably do.
You probably do? It's nice to know. Sometimes these rites of passage experiences highlight how we operate in other phases of life as well.
Yeah.
We're not going to stay there.
Yeah.
Now, I know that when I spoke to you about the surrendering and the opening that usually needs to happen for birth to occur naturally, it felt like that seems like quite an, I don't want to say easy, but a natural part of the process for you. It wasn't particularly challenging for you to go there. Do you think that's just a part of your natural personality and character, or was there a way that you prepared that you felt helped you go into that surrendering and opening? Yeah.
I suspect probably a bit of both.
Yeah.
I think I probably am quite open to influences even.
Yes.
And I did a lot of preparation.
Did you?
Yeah. So again, the fact that I'm a Feldenkrais practitioner, which I realise not many people will know what that is, and it's even difficult to say.
Yeah, it is a little.
But what that meant was that I'd done a lot of preparation in a practice called awareness through movement.
Okay.
And particularly I focused on pelvic floor awareness.
Yes.
And did a lot of lessons around visualizing the cervix opening, everything softening, relaxing with my breath, moving the pelvis to open. So yes, I did preparation, and I do believe that then at crunch time, I was able to drop into that memory of having prepared in that way.
Absolutely. When you visualize and do those things, I know when I was studying with Birthing from Within, we did a lot of those sorts of visualizations, the softening and the opening and the imagining, which is so vital. And I find that even when I do pregnancy massages for women, pregnant women obviously, there's this sense sometimes, especially if they've had miscarriages before or there's a fear around losing the baby, they can be holding on really tight, and you can see the tightness in the abdomen and around the baby. You've probably noticed it too when you do the work. And after doing like a kahuna massage, I find that there's this softening that occurs straight away. It's like the baby realizes there's more space and the mama relaxes a little, and I found that invaluable for many women before they've gone into labour to already have that softening started.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because to go through all of it when you're already beginning the process can be too much, and you might not get there, and that can be sometimes when you end up with suctioning or forceps or other forms of interventional help that's needed. So it's interesting that you've noticed that too.
Yeah, and a lot of the women as well who've come to home birth group, I've heard a lot of stories over the years as well. There's this common thread of preparing and really understanding the power of surrender.
Surrender, and understanding that doesn't mean weakness or that we've given up. Like, it really is a powerful thing to do, to be able to surrender to the process and get into that raw and wild and vulnerable part of ourselves and be seen.
Yeah.
All right, love it.
And to trust.
And to trust. Yes, know that. Yeah, trusting.
Yeah, I could have worn my trust birth pendant. I didn't wear it.
Trust across the board. Yeah, in all things, but definitely in that. So you mentioned healing was an ongoing process for you, sort of in collaboration with raising children. Could you elaborate a little more on what that means for you particularly?
It's okay.
Yeah.
Well, I suspect that these little people come into our lives to sort of fast track this for us.
Oh, gosh, the teachers.
Yeah, the teachers come. So, I don't really know how to elaborate on that other than, for me, I'm so interested in personal growth anyway, and being involved in the home birth group is part of that, and all the work that I love to do is part of that. And my children are part of that as well.
They are a part of it, and there's such great mirrors. All of us parents out there who, are in the daily grind of parenting, I'm sure know what perfect little mirrors they are. Sometimes exactly what we are, and sometimes the opposite of what we are. So lots of learning comes through them. Not always fun.
No,
quite often challenging.
Press the little button.
They do. They know our buttons so well. All right, let's move on from that.
We've got the buttons, so we have to own those buttons.
We do have to own the buttons.
And look at where the buttons are.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And that includes in that rite of passage birthing journey. They've got their own experience that they're coming in here to have, and they're helping us along with ours as well. So sometimes those traumatic experiences or challenging experiences is a journey that we've chosen to go on together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so is there any advice or something in particular, and I know that we have already touched on the birth preparation, but please feel free to elaborate on that if you'd like to. But anything from your own experience that you feel like would be really important to share with the people who are watching today?
I think it's part of the birth preparation process, and you touched on it when you're talking about kahuna and the rites of passage. I think it's just do what you feel drawn to do, whatever that looks like for you, to give yourself space to get familiar and comfortable with your body. That would be it, I think.
That is so important. Yeah, because a lot of us are not in touch with our bodies, and you really can't do birth and stay disassociated from it. So doing yoga or getting body work done, and we'll elaborate a little bit on the Feldenkrais then.
Okay.
Please.
Please. Well, I loved what you talked about for a pregnant woman in particular, about that sense of space. But for Feldenkrais, we even go beyond that in terms of looking at how can you improve your everyday function.
Yes.
Even rolling out of bed when you're getting so big, and I'm at the moment I'm talking specifically pregnancy, that's, might be the people watching. But at any stage of life, it's just about improving our quality of movement and becoming aware of our habitual patterns.
Yes.
That we've not been conscious of, that can lead to pain and tension and even a particular way of viewing the world.
Back to the mind.
Yes.
And our perspectives.
Well, and but how linked that is to the body and our patterns of movement.
Yeah, absolutely. And even when we think about the mind and emotions and how that relieves chemical peptides and how that gets trapped into the body, like the mind is such a powerful tool, really, because that's how we should look at it, is not the leader or the boss of everything, but just another tool in our tool belt of how we operate and how we work with it. Yeah. Okay, so there was one other question that I wanted to ask, and that was about support. Was there any particular support that you received postnatally that really stood out to you as being significantly important?
Wow. Okay.
I'm tricking her with this one.
Yes, you are.
Well, it's not a trick, but I have thrown it in.
Back.
Yeah, because I know that you know how important support is, and the birth preparation is just so vital. But then afterwards, you know, I feel like we touched on that perhaps the birth support postnatally wasn't always there for you, but when it was there, what did that look like? Was it people, you know, cleaning or bringing over food or... It was those practical things.
Yes. And even one of the beautiful things about having your own independent midwife is that they come and look after you for that first 6 weeks still. So that's beautiful. I had midwives come. And
that continuity of care.
Priceless.
Before, during and after. Yeah.
Amazing.
So midwife, doula, those sorts of, support people.
Yeah. So there were times my midwife would come and check on me, of course, and the baby, but also put a load of washing on or wash my dishes in the sink.
I needed one of those.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, okay.
And then in our home birth community, I'd have women come and drop off some meals. So later, as in towards, my third baby, I realised that I might even need a bit extra, so I made sure I had some bodywork people come to my house to look after me as well postnatally.
And I love that, and I love that you touched on having that support network already organised beforehand, because trying to rally people when you're postnatal, that's just tricky, because sometimes you don't know what to ask for, you just need help. So and I guess it was your third birth, so you had a bit of an idea of what you wanted that to look like. And it's part of what I love in the Motherhood Rite of Passage program that I have online is, you know, when we're following that descent of Inanna into the underworld, she's preparing for the unknown, but at the same time she is preparing. And one of the most important things she does is ask her best friend to call for help if she doesn't come back after 3 days and 3 nights.
Wow.
And it's only because she set that support network up in place that Ninshaba is the name of her friend, sends help, and then Inanna gets the food and the water of life and is reborn in the underworld to be able to come home. And it's one of my favourite parts of that birthing rite of passage story is that we can't be reborn on our own. We actually really need the help and support. Not just the village raises helps to raise the child, but the village helps the newborn mother. And that, it was so fortunate, but at the same time, you created it, having that home birth community around you.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the same time, as you say, we need to be clear that that's needed.
Absolutely. That we're not failing to ask for support. I mean, many cultures and traditions don't need to ask for support. It's just a part of how it works. We're very different here. So, I'm glad we touched on that, because it was my own lack of postnatal support that I felt like definitely pushed me into postnatal depression, which, of course, I didn't want to admit at the time because it was just another thing I'd failed about. But really... And I've read a lot about, the 1 in 3 women who do suffer from postnatal depression, and quite often it is triggered from that lack of support, when you're trying to negotiate a whole new world of a dependent, usually that you've never experienced, a dependent who needs you 24/7, sleep deprivation. And we don't really do it in live-in community groups anymore, where grandmothers and aunties and sisters and all of those sorts of people, and of course men in our families, can just come in and take a shift, really.
Absolutely. No, it's huge. I'm glad you mentioned that too, because I also did suffer from postnatal depression with my first as well. So despite having that community around me, I still went down that hole as well.
And it is that fine line between being told it's the birthing blues, just that cocktail of hormones that are still going on that might make us extra emotional, and then going, oh, hang on, this thing's still gone for a long time. And it feels like a downward spiral. It's so important to touch on. So before we do finish, I know that you are creating a birth preparation program.
I am.
Is there anything you'd like to share about that with us?
Just that I feel excited about it.
Good, and so you should. It sounds like you've got lots of knowledge around it that could really be super helpful for other women.
I feel excited about that it can be another tool for the toolkit, in terms of particularly what we talked about, being able to bring yourself in and creating that space in your life to connect with your body, become more familiar with even the bones of your pelvis and how your pelvis is going to open to let the baby out, and focusing on everything that's going to happen in birth, and just being ready to surrender to that.
And that's it, not just it being all about the physical, but, the emotional and the mental and the spiritual preparation that can make the whole thing flow so much more easily. Absolutely. Lovely, thank you. Well, I can't wait. Once the whole birth preparation program is happening, I will definitely be sharing it with you. Because I know it will be incredible. It'll probably marry really well with my whole Motherhood Rite of Passage online program, because that's more postnatal, to help understand and integrate the Rite of Passage, and yours is preparation. I like it. So, if you would like to understand more about the birthing journey, or understand how it is a rite of passage, or have help healing a difficult or traumatic birth, then please get in contact with me or check out my Motherhood Rite of Passage online program. But in the meantime, remember, the transformation comes from within. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us today. I'm loving these conversations so much, and where they organically go to, and the little gems and the treasures that come up through our conversations, they're just amazing. It's so good. So sending you all so much love. Thank you, Jeni, and I'll see you all next week.
And can I just remind viewers to just drop into their body today, and just really center yourself with your breath.
The breath. We'll end there. Thank you.